things that citizen journalists need to have, I think that would help. So some useful tools are the computer, digital camera, recorder to record vox pops and sound bites, any interviews that you may get, and also Final Cut Pro if you want to manipulate and edit your own stories and have them. What skills are needed by citizen journalists? So critical thinking, having a natural curiosity about an issue, understanding critical details, putting facts together, and understanding human behavior, like why do people do what they do? Is there a reason behind it? How are people reacting to a certain issue? Large writing with accuracy. Writing clearly and succinctly is important. It will help with clarity, relevance, and will help readers understand what you're trying to convey to them. And of course, an eye and ear for putting together a story. Using images, sound, graphics, and piecing them together to create a story with a beginning, middle, and end. Basically having an eye to create a story through print or visual. So basically, there's just some of the pros. It's easy and fast way to get many people at one time. It can be shared on multiple social media platforms. And if you have access to the internet, it can be used to reach out to people wherever you are. But there are some cons, as we talked about. It's impossible to accurately measure the effectiveness of what you're doing. Just because a certain number of people like something that you posted or follow you on Twitter doesn't mean that they are seeing or actually caring about what you put out there. And then there may be poor quality, untrained journalists and technicians. Maybe you're not familiar with how to manipulate a camera, how to frame something, how to record it effectively. So that might be some examples of online activism at work. During the Egypt uprising, there was a call for action that was circulated on Twitter and Facebook. And so in the hours before the internet was unplugged, activists used social media inside the country and relayed their messages using contacts in other countries. And then other Twitter users sent messages to boost protesters' morale, offering tweets of support and solidarity from countries such as Japan and the United States. And then users outside of Egypt urged fellow citizens to write to a politician to put pressure on the Egyptian government, so thus using social media to advance their cause. And that is my presentation. Oh, in conclusion, it is important to have these skills, but also important to get professional training as journalists to attain the skills and inform audiences effectively and efficiently in the best way possible. Okay, and I give you to Alice.
So I'm going to talk to you guys about journalistic routines. I know you guys know the basics of communication theories like agenda setting and framing, but I'm going to talk to you guys about how such routines used by different media forms can have a serious impact on the way societies think. And I'm going to do that using an example that I think will be familiar to both sides, the portrayal of Africa in the mainstream Western media. So there are some serious apparent norms that are used by the mainstream Western media in how they, in their coverage of sub-Saharan Africa. Just so the mainstream Western media is things BBC, NBC, New York Times, The Guardian, you guys get it. So one of the, two of the main forms that they use in their coverage of sub-Saharan Africa, one of them is abiding by the general business model, meaning that they are only going to publish stories, this is true in many media forms, but they're only going to publish stories that sell the most papers or get the most viewers. Journalism is a business, and that's their main concern, unfortunately. And the second form of journalistic routines is stories that are mainly crisis and stereotype oriented. So they want to feed into stereotypes and preconceived notions that their audiences already hold about sub-Saharan Africa. And this is obviously bad, but this also goes into following their general business model, and it also increases their tendency to control the way that society thinks. So there are some, unfortunately, apparent norms in, this is probably no surprise to you all, in Western perspectives of Africa. One of them is viewing Africa as one entity rather than 55 different countries. Most people just say Africa. They probably can name 2 countries in Africa, but that's about it. common stories in Western media about Africa are about people donating money for AIDS research or adopting children or building schools. And also, most people don't realize how diverse Africa is, or that you guys have made some serious progress over the last 20 years in economically, socially, and politically. So I'm going to open this up for discussion. You guys can be completely honest. Why do you think these stereotypes exist? And why do you think that in the West they generally view Africa falsely as this weak, war-torn, sort of victimized place? To be honest. Yeah.
I think it is predominantly dominated by the social perspective of wanting to maintain superior versus some inferior countries. Therefore, the news would be said that they have to portray Africa in a way that needs help from the North. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Have an opinion? Yeah?
I think it's because way back during colonialism, the Africans were not very educated. So it has been carried forward with the assumption that Africans still don't have no conversations. Just being primitive, they don't want to be power with them. That's why they compare.
No one else? Yeah?
I personally believe it's informed by both political interest and economic interest. Political interest, as in the Western media, when you talk about the Western media, particularly talking about Western media in the United States or North American media, they want to portray the rest of the world as inferior to them. That's from a political perspective. And once you get the mindset of the people that we are superior to the rest, then the economic number comes in. As in these people can't compete with us. It's a market for us, but not a market for them. So it's both informed by political perspective and also economic perspective. And you partly answer that when you say the bad news about Africa, those guys from West, from the West, they always look for the plane that crashed in Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, and not the one that took off. So the bad news says something.
You guys are all right, obviously. There's a plethora of reasons why this stereotype and this overall general view of society exists. But I'm going to talk about one study that a guy, he's a sociologist, his name is David Al-Fayed. He did a study on different TV broadcasting stations in the US, mainstream ones, not any local ones. And one thing he found was that foreign affairs, a lot of people have this perspective of Americans, which is generally true, that they don't really care about what else goes on in the world, that most Americans have very little knowledge about other countries, which is true. So he decided to do this study about this, and he found that foreign affairs reporting in Western TV stations was actually a lot more extensive than he originally thought. The problem is that these sources possess this thing called media hegemony, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. Basically, it's what you guys have all talked about, how U.S. broadcasting forums want to reinforce these